It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back for another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast. Brought to you by Soonerscoop.com. The entire gang with us here today. Boom. All right, welcome in, everybody. It is time for another frosty edition of the unofficial 40 podcast. And as I said, the entire crew joining us here. And boys, Josh, you've had some power issues in Houston, along with pretty much everybody that lives in Houston. We have had lots of snow here in Norman, freezing single-digit temperatures. We're about to come out of it, though. How are you boys doing? How are you hanging in there?
Well, I have power. So really, for me, that's it is amazing how that can change your whole perspective on the world. Like last night, we were sitting here at about 4:30, and we're preparing for another night of no power and what we were going to do and how we're going to work that out. And then we were literally, I was looking at my fuse box trying to set up a generator appraisal to somebody to come out and set us up for a home generator kind of setup. And literally, as I'm looking at the fuse box, the power came back on. So, changed my whole view of the world. Everything looks a lot better when it's, shaded in light.
I know that Eddie is he's damaged a car. He's paid a lot of money throughout this whole thing.
It feels like it wasn't too long ago. I feel like we've been in this cycle for almost a week now, even going back to last Wednesday, when I got by Big Bread, Big Dairy. But it hasn't been too bad. I mean, hanging around the house, I've caught up on a bunch of shows on television, on Netflix.
Really?
Yeah. I
shocking.
watched Your Honor, which I thought was pretty fucking awesome, to be honest, with Bryan Cranston. I watched the show about the girl that got found at the hotel in the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. That was a Netflix operation. Pretty good. Pretty freaky. That's about it, though. It's just been weird with no midweek basketball, too. I like having that bust zone.
You can hear the unhappiness in Bob's voice.
Well, I'm sick of being fucking cold, too.
Are you guys, having to wear extra layers of clothes and stuff around the house? It's gotten so cold, I can't... Yep. There's no consistency in the temperature in my house. So it's been pretty bad. It's been pretty bad in that regard. Actually, I mean, I don't know. I can't really complain. I haven't lost electricity, haven't had any water problems yet, and I haven't really had any problems getting into radio and stuff in the morning with the roads. So I can't complain. A lot more people have been a lot worse off than I have.
And I love to shovel snow. It's been 2 days that I just enjoyed a lot.
I did that yesterday, and it was very therapeutic. I cleaned off my porch and my walkway and a little bit of my driveway, just enough so I could get to my car without stepping ankle deep into snow. I'll probably go out there and do it some more today. That's probably the best thing I've done all week.
It is completely cleared, so when my wife has to leave here pretty soon, she has no problems leaving.
Or you'd be in trouble.
I feel like Bob, when he said that, he leaned back in his chair, he put his hands behind his head. He was flexing hard.
I thought it was more waiting for somebody to smack him or something, if he didn't finic.
I would absolutely have paid a neighbor kid to do that. I'm not shoveling anything.
Well, you are a apartment condo dweller for life, I believe. You don't need a yard.
I think I bet I'll buy a house by the end of 2021.
Whoa!
Oh my God!
Wow!
Whoa.
That's a man that's actively looking. That's happening.
No, I wouldn't say that, but I don't know. I'm going to try and do it right during the middle of the football season, though, just so it makes me extra want to kill myself.
Yeah, I would. Last time I bought a house, it was during March Madness, and I was still actively covering the team on a daily basis, and I had to go to Memphis. This was, 2009 when Blake Griffin's last year. It was a nightmare. Just doing titles and punch list and all that crap that you had to do before you moved. But by the way, Josh, I don't know if anybody's told you this, but when you move into a new house, you're not supposed to have a bunch of problems. Like that's why you move into a new house. One of them is, you caused yourself by drilling into a gas line. The other is out of your control. But my God, I've never known anyone that's moved into a new house and then had two major catastrophes.
Well, there are all sorts of rules. Don't move during a pandemic. Don't move the week of Thanksgiving. I mean, we were like, screw it, man. We're going to just do whatever. We're going to live how we want to live, and we have paid the price. We still do not have a refrigerator in our kitchen because of the metal problems they've had with all the equipment needs that, for first responders and all that, or not first responders, but like medical, all that sort of stuff has superseded the refrigerator industry and has desperately hurt it. We were supposed to get it Monday, and then obviously the Houston shut down, and then we were supposed to get it today, and it was the company who was going to deliver its first day kind of back in the offices, so that's been rescheduled again. So we bought this refrigerator in like September, and it's supposed to probably be here next week.
So they had to make the refrigerator, and they didn't have all the metal to make it, is what you're saying.
That's basically what we've been told. Like it's a GE, and we've been going through GE, and it's been a thing. So, and I mean, like, you get like that it's not like it's not something I'm complaining about. Like that stuff is more important. That's fine. We have a refrigerator.
Bastard.
Yeah, we have a refrigerator. It's not like anybody's dying.
You
here.
probably
It's
watched
just,
the Thunder game with all your lights on the other day too.
The girls were dancing with a strobe light with both their iPads on, and but I mean they were plugged into the wall, so it's totally fine. Their batteries were low, so we had to charge.
That is so perfectly just one of those white people memes as far as having the two refrigerators, one in the garage and one in the kitchen.
When this one is delivered, I'm going to own it. We will have 3. Now, one of them we are going to give to a friend. We don't need 3. But we have 2 at the moment, and they're going to get shuffled around.
Make sure you add a deep freezer into the equation out in the garage.
That's what we have. We have a deep freezer in the garage to go with.
Are you bringing home full deer or something? Why do you have a deep freezer?
Just a lot of food that we store up, and that's actually what we've been going through this entire week. Has been going through the deep freezer and seeing what we can make since we can't leave.
You got that when you were storing formula and baby milk, weren't you?
Yep.
You can tell me the truth.
Yep.
I knew
Absolutely.
it. That's father shit. We know about that stuff.
You guys need a moment?
You need
hey,
you need a segment to talk about?
I have a friend of our family that she could have gone in. She could have challenged Borden for milk production, and they just got a deep freezer for all of it. It's
Absolutely.
impressive.
I mean, because it's
and
good.
I'm not saying anything about Bob's significant other. I'm just saying my knowledge base of this information.
Yep, might be work for Big Bread, Big Dairy. It sounds like.
Bob was kind of excited about the snow, Eddie. There's some warning signs here.
Can we talk about the history of Big Bread, Big Dairy? Like when this started, how this idea was hatched in the first place?
Like most things, it started in the 27-person text group that I'm in. That is a constant stream of just awesomeness.
Oh my, 27 people?
27?
I think it's around there. I mean, there's probably like 13 active members, but there's a lot of lurkers, and that's the best part is when you get somebody that hasn't spoken up in a while. We don't want to spend a bunch of time on that. I know Josh has to get over to Hobby to pick up Ted Cruz here in a little bit.
Oh my God. See, and I'm always hesitant to talk about like media, like that's the biggest text group I'm in is a media text group, but I'm hesitant to even mention that there's a media text group. Otherwise, You're going to get all the conspiracy theorists out like, see, they're just always planning against us, the media elites.
Well, the government sends out the talking points. We got to know what we're going to cover for the day.
Yeah, exactly. No, that does not happen. By the way, can I just say, I've been doing some Twitter fighting lately, and it's made its way to the board as usual. And it was just about, people being pissed off that the Thunder were playing because we were having some rolling blackouts. And it's one of those things, like, I know it's going to happen. I can't stop it. Like, I'm going to get into a fight, and I bodied a guy, but it's not going to end. Somebody else is going to jump on the next day, and that happened. And then I had to body that guy. But, this is my whole thing about the internet. And it happens. We deal with like politics on the board all the time and try and keep it, we try and like let people have their say, but we know it's going to go bad, and it always does. And we get rid of it, but it's just like, I don't understand, people say, well, you're this or you're that. Like, you know what? I hate the left now because they have a president. Just like I hated the right when they had because it's just the same crap over and over. Like, I don't get offended by you calling me a liberal or a Democrat or whatever. I mean, I've been a Republican, I've been a Democrat, I've been all this stuff. Like, can you just not let your life be ruled by whether someone agrees with you or doesn't agree with you in your political stance?
Politically, yep.
I mean, that's killing our entire country. If anything, just to say, I don't listen to your show anymore because you guys got too liberal. Like, no, we don't talk about politics on the radio. You interject that. You think that you know how I see things or I don't see things. Like, I was yelling at people for being soft about bitching at the Thunder the other night. Do you think that, am I a liberal? Because that, like, I take different positions on different things. But you know what I don't do? I don't let how I feel politically, unless you're just an extremist to the left or the right, I hate you. And I don't want to listen to you, and I'll probably block you if you just won't stay out of my timeline. But, like, I never say, oh, I don't like him, and I won't ingest anything he does because he has a different view than I do politically. Like, I this is my soapbox for the day. I just wish if everybody stopped doing that kind, what did I call it? Like political God damn it. I can't even think.
You're on a roll.
Political blackmailing. That's what people are doing. Like, I am going to boycott you because you don't love Donald Trump, or you love Biden, or you don't love Biden. Like, it's just stop it, and we'll all get along so much better online. It's just ruining everything. So there's my soapbox. I'm done. Talk sports, jackass. I will.
You can find more on this rant on OAN and or after Rachel Maddow's show on MSNBC.
What is the most down the middle? Because I know CNN is not down the middle. They are totally liberal. And I know Fox News is totally conservative.
I think that's the problem, is there isn't a down the middle.
There isn't one, right? Yeah.
Is there not?
Well, guys, and people like get mad about that, like, oh, I want that. No, you don't. No, the people that really want to sit and watch politics all day, they want someone to feed them the shit that they want. They want to confirm what they believe. Like, but again, to me, that's just me. I'm so apolitical. Like, it's just a bunch of people yelling at each other about bullshit, and whether it's a right-wing idiot in the Oval Office or a left-wing idiot, it's the same shit, same stuff. It just happens, and you think it's different, and it's not. It's the same crap.
Holy shit, I just saw Eddie's latest Instagram post. What are
Miss
you
those days.
What are you doing?
Going to a party, it looks like.
I don't remember you being this big at that age.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, that's hurtful.
And out of context, it could be taken a little bit
Out
different.
of context. Yeah.
Wow. You were a little bit mesmerized by the picture. What is Eddie showing in that picture?
He's wearing a leotard.
Oh, congratulations, Eddie. Mazel tov.
Were you with Richard Simmons? Is that what you were going for?
No, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a date party. Definitely not Richard Simmons. I think I was just going for a comfortable look. Comfortable and athletic.
That looks like neither.
I think it's comfortable.
Okay, let's get to some sports. I know you had a Zoom call with Lon just before we started the pod, and you mentioned it's been weird because the OU Texas game got postponed 3 times before it just got TBD'd, I guess you could call it. So what's the latest with Lon? What all did he have to say that was interesting today?
Yeah, I mean, he's just sort of mentioning how the mental hurdle or how tough it is to stay sharp mentally when you're going through this process. And he brought up, I mean, the conference season was supposed to end next Saturday with Bedlam and Norman. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. They gave themselves that next week, and that's where Monday right now is where Bedlam and Stillwater are scheduled. But now you have home games against Baylor and Texas. Would the conference try to do a rush job and get every single game in, like go every other day that first week in March to try to get all these games in? And Lon didn't really have an answer. He's like, that's a possibility that's out there. Like, when are they going to come to an agreement of like how many games per team need to be played? Because who's had no interruptions is Kansas. Like, Kansas is going to have its entire conference season in, while Baylor will be like at 12, 13 games. And I think people are wondering how that's going to affect seedings for the tournament and how that's all going to work out. But,
how committed is he to the tournament? Is he, do you think that, I guess that's a question for Joe Castiglione too, but I'm curious, if you get to some point where you're just like, look, it's better for our league to just not play the tournament and make up regular season games.
Yeah, what Lon was saying, when it comes to the Big 12 tournament, from everything they know, they want to play it. And he doesn't think there's going to be a thing where one team opts out. I think ACC had that conversation a couple of weeks ago of like, well, if I feel good about where I'm at in the in March Madness, why should I play this tournament and chance to get COVID and then really knock me out later? But he didn't express any desire of opting out. And the one thing that is going to be weird is it does sound like they're going to go straight from Kansas City to Indiana in whatever bubble they have to be in. So they're not going to be back in Norman for a long, long time when the second week of March comes around.
Well, and have we done the pod since the first, the tournament committee released their first 16?
No, that was on Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
Saturday.
I mean, I can't tell what
and
days or what.
Double overtime win.
Yeah,
I would imagine, they come out on the 3 line in that thing and the 12 overall seed, but I would imagine, it's I think we talked about it in the Scoop DM group this week. It's incredible that not only is this team in the top 10 in the country right now, but they could be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's just almost bewildering considering where this thing was or where we thought this thing was going to be at the beginning of the season. I think we kind of all agreed that getting to the second weekend of the tournament would be the ceiling for this group, and now it's almost a disappointment if they don't get there.
Yeah, what they're going through here, in terms of 3 straight road games. This is where, again, you just want to see their mentality. You're supposed to beat Iowa State, you're supposed to beat Kansas State, but when you're on the road for an entire week, can they still be physically, mentally sharp the entire time? Because as you get to the latter part of the season, any loss magnified much bigger than it would be in December and January. And, you can't lose to Cyclones or the Wildcats this year and still make your case for like a 2 or 3 seed.
Pretty wild that it will be the 3 straight road games would be the first time since 1996, obviously with the cancellation of the Texas game this week. And then the other fact is I guess it had kind of been lost on me that they hadn't won at Hilton since 2011 and then Bramblage since 2012. It's pretty wild. And if they lose to either of these teams, I'm not going to call for the firing of anybody, but we might call them pussies.
Yeah,
and they could have had a fourth until Bedlam got changed in Stillwater. Could have been 4 road games in a row.
Yeah, and I mean the Iowa State thing, I mean, you think about it. I mean, God, I mean, all the games that they played there in Hilton, and God, I just hate their fans. I mean, I don't know if it's that way anymore. But
was the Stephen Pledger game, right? The overtime game?
I believe I was at Pachinko Parlor watching that game. And, yeah, Stephen Pledger was just going off. Because, I'm pretty sure I went up to Pachinko Parlor to my bud's Chef Smith, and we were sitting there watching the game, and I remember being surprised at how well they were doing, and they just went in and whipped that ass that night. But, I mean, they don't do well in Ames. I mean, even when they've sucked, and OU's been clearly the better team, they've lost it.
That's what's amazing, because 2012 KSU, 2011 Iowa State. That's all the buddy years, and Trey Young, and like it never has mattered when it's come to those 2 spots.
Yeah, Pledger scored 38 in an Oklahoma overtime win in Ames on January 29th, 2011. It's pretty wild.
And then the next year they got beat up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they haven't won since.
I mean, now that Austin Reeves is back, obviously he has had no problems just stepping right back in and taking over the scoring for this team. But everybody kind of fell in love with Harkless and some of the other guys, and they got better defensively. Has it hurt their defense at all having Reeves back as a starter?
I don't think so. I mean, just what Harkless and Mo Gibson have brought to the team, that intensity, that's become infectious to everyone. Because even Brady Manick has looked like he stepped it up on defense because he's had to, and that's what I asked Kerr Queth on Monday. Is like when you go to this 4-guard lineup between you, Brady, and Victor Iwuakor, only one of you guys is going to get minutes. So it's sort of like when you get in that first stint in the first half, you need to show Lon that you deserve the minutes in the second half. And it goes like that with Alondas Williams and Mo Gibson. Like, they love the depth that they have, but what that means is not everyone's going to, not the same 5's going to be out there to close games out. And I thought it'd be a tougher adjustment, but when you talk to Brady Manick, Davion Harmon, I've asked this question a lot of different ways throughout the season. They just all mentioned, it doesn't matter. We get it. As long as we're winning, that's good. And then you go back to work the next day of practice, and then you hope that you're in that final 5 for that next game. There's no selfish me part of this team, and I think it's been very refreshing to talk to him throughout the course of the season.
Now, there was some news. Kerr Queth told you guys, this would be his last season, that he was going to go pro for family reasons. I don't know if you know any more about that, but that's one of these things. I mean, I remember, who was it? The big guy that was real good friends with James Frashilla.
Amath
Mbai, yeah. Like, I think that was the first time I was like, why would you go pro? And I mean, you got to realize these guys can make a lot of money playing other, places other than the NBA. And I assume, Queth, if somebody in the NBA wants to take a chance, he'd be willing, but he's probably going to have an opportunity to make a lot of money in some league overseas.
For sure. I mean, I think when I look at that quartet, I was like, Alondas Williams and Kerr Queth, to me, are going to make a lot of money overseas for a lot of years. I think Austin Reeves was going to try NBA, and he's done everything he can in the last 2 years to show that he belongs at that type of level. And I think he'll leave after the season because he's been in, from the Wichita State years to then having to sit out a year. I mean, he's been in college a long time. I think he'll be ready to go. It's Brady Manick that I'm just not sure, because COVID changed the trajectory and the direction of his senior season so much that I don't know if this is the note he wants to go out on, and I don't know if the way that he's finishing is going to be enough to really make him look like a prospect at the next level if he wants to try to go that direction. So then when we asked Lon about that today, he said they're not really talking about that. Those conversations will be had primarily following the season. What I can say with recruiting is whatever they lose from that quartet, they're going to go find it through the portal. It's kind of like football. They're just like, we're not going to offer a high school kid, a junior college kid that we haven't been able to watch, haven't been able to get to know. So whatever additions we need because of who's leaving, we're going to do it through the portal. And, sometimes it works out like it did this year with Gibson and Harkless.
Austin Reeves, if you would like to write a tell-all about that son of a bitch, Greg Marshall, I'll help you with it.
Oh, there's no doubt that he does not like him. They've asked him. I remember back right when all the Wichita State stuff was happening at the beginning of the year. They asked him about it, and it was a very much I'm not gonna soil this man's name quite yet, but I will one day.
Let's just start with Lynn, his wife, because she's a psycho.
Oh, she is the perfect example of just a crazy bitch.
Well, he turned her into a drunk.
She might have already been like that before. I was surprised that Houston plays Wichita State tonight. I'm surprised that Wichita State's 12-4 this year.
Well, yeah, I mean they got rid of him, and the players they're probably never been happier in their lives.
Yeah, that's probably true too. I just real quick, Bob, I would think with, the way that you were talking about how they handle the rotations and stuff, it has to help that they have a lot of guys that have kind of been through this before. Like, there's not very many. I mean, obviously, Trey Phipps and as a freshman, but nobody else in the rotation is necessarily. I don't know if they'd have a leg to stand on if they went up to Lon and said, "I want to play more."
Yeah, I mean, the way the Davion Harmon played without Reeves, that's the best Harmon we've seen since coming to Norman. And then you get to Morgantown, and Harmon's on the bench for most of the second half until overtime when he finally got to make a couple shots. And it's just that's what those guys have to go through. It's basically you go game by game, and whoever's got the hot hand. We used to say that, right, with the running back situation. Whoever's got the hot hand, that's who they were going to lean on. Well, it's like that every single game with basketball this season. Lon doesn't go in with a set five that he knows is going to close out the game or even start it. He tinkers, and he lets the play on the court dictate the way he's going to coach the rest of the game.
Man, it sure would be nice if Josh participated in basketball talk and just at least ask Bob a question or Eddie a question.
Is Trae Young still on the team?
It was 4 years ago, Josh. It was 4 years ago this week. And it's funny, but you think Hannes, Polya, Brady Manick, and Trae Young. That's quite the 2017 class.
No, I mean, look at where OU is right now. They're in the top 10. Of course, Trae Young's not on the team anymore.
Well, at least not at this point of the season. It's late.
So you feel that the strength of that class was Brady Manick, is what you're saying?
I'm going to still go with Hannes Pola.
Where is Polya? We'll never know.
Isn't he at like Eastern Tennessee or like one of those directional Tennessee?
He could have been initially, but you think he's still there? I don't know.
Miss him.
But yeah, I mean, but that Trae Young team was almost going to always be known as the one that made the top 16 like for this last weekend and then didn't make the tournament. And, obviously they were 10 seed. They were the last at-large team to get in that didn't have to play on those first 4 games. But, yeah, this team, that the makeup of this team is a lot different compared to that group for sure.
Okay, well, Valentine's Day is over, and the weather is going to get better and better. But I'll tell you what, Eddie, I found out something new out shoveling snow, and that is if I put my boardroom socks on to protect against the cold and also put on my tennis shoes, that's a match made in heaven right there. Just feels like you are walking on pillows, walking on a crowd. But go to Dead Soxy and use your promo code exclusively for Soonerscoop.com listeners, podcast listeners, and subscribers. Get 30% off using that promo code BOOMER at checkout. You'll save on your entire order. The no-show invisible socks, the boardroom dress socks, high quality source fabrics that will up your sock game to the next level. And we've got some things brewing for OU fans. You guys have been such good supporters of Dead Soxy. Might have some new inventory coming soon for you. Working on it with the guys over there. But Eddie, I don't know if you were shoveling snow. You've definitely been getting out and about, driving to your radio station every morning, and I'm sure Dead Soxy's been a part of that.
Yeah, and you know what the best part about that is? And I haven't been doing any shoveling. There's no shoveling in the Radosevich household. But I can tell you, and probably the same thing that you experienced was when you are bundled up and you have like 7 layers of clothes on because of this ungodly winter blast that we've been through, you don't have to keep bending down because of the patented no-slip silicone beads.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's no slippage, which is probably the best part about Dead Soxy.
You don't get that. You don't get the wet feet. Also,
you have to take
weird
your gloves
ankle
off,
thing.
And then you have to go all the way down. You have to bend over, get through all of the layers of clothes. That's probably my favorite part over here of the last week.
That's a very good point. Well, get yours. Go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Use that promo code Boomer. You get 30% off the best dress socks that you've ever put on. And as always, guys, remember, stay soxy. All right. I think we've noticed that there's been a lot of activity on Twitter. It seems, Josh and Bob, I know you're a big tracker of this. It seems like there's a concerted push to really get going here with recruiting with the coaching staff right now. There's a new video that was released. I know a lot of people got pissed off about the eyeball emojis losing their value a little bit. We're now using them to tease videos.
For shame.
I think the eyes will be post-commitment. That was what Raleek Brown was. I think he finally decided, been burned too much about doing it too early, and then it doesn't happen. We have nothing else to gauge it on except Brown. So we'll have to wait for the next commitment to see if when that kid announces, if like 5 minutes later.
Who was the first one to break Lincoln's heart? To dick him over on the eyeball emojis?
The one that sticks out to me, Bob, is the DB that ended up going to Ohio State, whose name I'm going to blank.
Jansen Dunn, yeah. But
yes,
there were
that's the one.
Jansen Dunn.
Yeah.
That felt like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that's the one where it just felt like the world turned.
Was it not the Major kid?
Major Burns was one of them for sure, but it seemed like Riley was still rolling with the punches. It was Jansen Dunn because he was going to come in for the spring game last year, and then he tells Lincoln he's going to commit, and then within the hour, it's flipped to Ohio State, and it's almost like the eyes haven't been as consistent.
You almost get the feeling like Lincoln wished he would have just committed and then decommitted because they just f***ed up the eyeball. They f***ed up the legitimacy of the eyeballs is what they did.
Which is clearly something he enjoys doing.
Yeah.
Like that, he has fun with that.
He even said in one of our talks that one of the recruits hit the tweet button, hit send for the eyes on Lincoln's phone.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
I mean, just based on the last 3 minutes of this, they should fire Lincoln Riley.
That's what I get from it.
I don't think he enjoys it as much as he just knows that he can press one button and send an emoji and get retweeted 5,000 times.
That's fair. But that's the thing. Like the same people that would get furious about why does he even send it if they're not going to commit within the next 72 hours. Like there should be some kind of rules about it. Are the same people now that are like he's fucking around with it, he's doing stupid stuff with it. No, you can't have that both ways. You can't have him not do it and at the same time like he shouldn't do that because it doesn't work out the right way. Like you can't have pick one. Go one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean it's content. It's building part of the brand, furthering the brand, moving in front of eyeballs that you probably weren't in front of, the day before. And that's I don't know what the percentage is, but I feel like it's probably more than 60% of recruiting is just being there.
Josh,
I can't wait
you think we'll get to see a lot more?
Just tell me to f*** myself next time.
I was getting ready to say, do you think we'll see like more Billy Lucci shots like I Doc Lincoln,
Dry fit,
optometrist Lincoln?
That, yeah, but I mean, and you have to give him some credit, with what Eddie's saying. I was kind of looking around at a few accounts. He has twice as many followers as Steve Sarkisian does. He has almost as many followers as Ed Orgeron does. Like, he has done a very nice job building a huge social media presence for himself.
Just off the top of my head, I wonder who does Lincoln have the biggest following of any college head coach?
Well, like I said, Orgeron has more. Here, I'm trying to.
Okay, Orgeron does.
Yeah, and it's tough because some of them, I don't think Nick Saban has a real account, or if he does, it's not public. So, Dabo, I can't find one for Dabo directly, but I'm betting he's got one, doesn't he? But, I mean, sorry, let's not Twitter search while doing the pod. But, it just, like I said, I mean, he has done a really good job of building that brand for himself.
Yeah, Josh, what I was going to ask is, will we see more eyes now that the recruiting dead period inexplicably has now been extended to at least May 31st? You think a lot more kids are going to start making decisions because
I'm excited for this rant.
That's just what they have to do. That's what the hand they've been dealt.
I think so because, Bob, I mean, we saw what happened in the transfer market last year. We saw how that's going to go. These kids are learning, and I think to their credit, there are some guys out there that are, handler is the wrong word because I think some of the guys I'm thinking of actually – they know this stuff. They really are trying to do things for the kids' best interest, and they're telling these guys, "Hey, man, if you know what you want to do, don't waste time. These spots are going to dry up faster than they ever have before." I think 2022 is going to get pinched harder than any class probably ever has. And Eddie's right. I could go on a 5-minute rail about this. Canceling the visits, and it's absurd. It's no standing for it. I'd love to hear you guys if you have any reason that could possibly back it up. We're going to allow thousands of fans from God knows where to come into our stadiums, but 10, 15 players. I mean, the NCAA can limit it. That's fine. If you want to say no more than 7 official visitors in a weekend, or you want to say, unofficial visitors have to be court. You want to make some rules? Fine. I can live with that. But where you're just saying, no, these players, we can't do that. We can't allow that. Why? What is the reasoning behind it? What is the basis? I just, it's not so much that I think it's stupid, which I absolutely do. I can't find any reason to support it. There has to be something I'm drastically missing other than the 20,000 that come in pay money and those kids don't, and they're going to be our free labor in a couple of years.
Well, especially when you're not in the middle of competition, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean,
yeah,
the kid, a recruit is going to come in and maybe have COVID and be around some other people. Well, it's not like it's going to prevent a league from canceling all its games or something. Absolutely, and you've got. You can do things to isolate these situations. You can't. The universities put stuff in place in the stands and that kind of stuff, but we all know there's only so far they can go with it before there's a backlash to it. You can only go so far, especially in the areas that are truly football crazed. There's just so far you can push your rules and how you want to manage it. As a football coach, Lincoln Riley is going to do everything he can to make sure his team, his 2021 team, can field them. They can go out on the field every week. If that means he's got to isolate those guys from the recruits, that's exactly what the hell he's going to do. But to not allow these guys to walk around, see things, there are steps you can make to make it as safe as possible and to limit the exposure. I mean, I think we all saw last year the college football players are not walking on pins and needles on how they're going to follow these rules. So to act like the recruits and the coaches can't govern it just as well is crazy to me. And it kind of tells you that they know it was a I don't know, bad choice, but a really unpopular choice because they went out of their way to say, look, we know that you guys want to visit, and by August we'll have a clear set of rules for how this is going to work when we finally open it back up. It's like they were trying to say, look, we're extending this, but we know we probably don't need to extend it, and because of that, we're going to really, really be ready for you guys to take trips when this is over. Like, they basically said, there's no chance that we're going to extend this again, but we're going to extend it now.
Yeah, it's a total appeasement. I mean, they're don't be mad because down the road we're going to do what we could have done right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, is anybody going to be mad if the NCAA said, you know what, we kind of thought maybe we would delay this, but we've decided we were going to wait until August. Give us another 2 weeks. Let us figure this out. Because it was pushed to what, April right now? I mean, they had time to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because what are these schools going to be like, oh, no, we just don't have enough time to put these things in place. They're going to make, hell yes, fine. We'll do whatever you want. Let us go visit these kids. Let them visit us, or one or the other. I mean, let something happen.
Well, you know what else you have?
There is just no in-person contacts. It's just insanity.
What else you have to do, though, and I don't know if this is part of it, but you have got to come up with the plan for what roster management is going to look like. When you start having kids coming in to visit, you need to know, like, within 2 years, we need to be down to, 95 or something. And then 3 years, it's back to 85. Like, you're going to have to know whether you need to process kids or tell seniors that they can't come back or they don't have a spot. Like, you have to give the schools a roadmap to how and when they need to get back to 85 scholarships. Because otherwise, you're just going to be bringing in all these kids, and you don't know if you're going to be able to take them or not. Or transfers,
like I said, and that's why I think 2022 is going to get pinched hard, because there's no allowance for it. It's just 110 back to 85. Like, it doesn't work like that. And so you're going to have that transfer portal could be absolutely, I mean, we think it was crazy this year. It could be nuts next year with some of these schools that have just not given a shit, and they're like, we're going to hit whatever number we want to hit, and then we'll cut whatever fat whenever we have to.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we've said it all along. Lincoln he's been pretty conservative about that stuff. But there's a lot of schools that are just like, let's just take who we can get. We'll worry about the rest later.
Yep.
And I would imagine that it hurt. I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily hurting the Oklahomas of the world. This is killing the middle tier programs that are trying to get kids in that maybe you can swing them if you get them on campus.
Well, and especially early, Eddie. Like, the schools like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good, like Iowa State is a really good example. Like, Iowa State is not going to beat OU head up on a recruit. They're just not going to do it. But if they get the kid from, let's say, Ohio, he's in early and they like him and OU likes him, but, man, they were there, they offered early, he came in for a couple of visits, it's closer to home, maybe that can win for you. Maybe that can make a difference. But when you can't build that, I mean, because, guys, Zoom call, I mean, we all know, Zoom call talking to your buddy or your family, it's not the same. There's no way that you feel the same closeness, you feel like you've really connected on the same level. And to expect these kids to be able to do it any differently, and while, as I say every time, making the biggest decision of their young lives, it's insane. It's an insane expectation, and it still boggles my mind that OU got Nathan Rollins-Kabonge and Mario Williams to sign and are now enrolled, and seeing Norman for the first time ever was when they moved in. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, like, that's a situation that shouldn't happen. We understand why it happened. I mean, it's just the way things were. I think the thing about it is again, you just got to give credit to the OU staff for recruiting in those situations, or in that situation.
Oh, sure. No, and like I said, last year, it was really tough on 2021, and I hate it for them. It was unfair. Like, that sucked. But you kind of understood it because everybody got blindsided by it. Man, we all know the score now. Like, we kind of know what's what. We know what we can do, what we can't do, what's going to look terrible, what's going to be pretty much accepted. 10 or 12, 15 recruits showing up and saying, like one family member, you can bring mom, you can bring dad, you can, whoever it's going to be, you can have one person come with you, is not going to alter the entire course of COVID. Like, calm down with that stuff. So it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's just one of these things where it feels like they're just kicking the can down the road because they don't want to deal with, there's going to be some people that are not happy about this, but those people and their relationship to college football has nothing to do with the people who are, like, their future is invested in this.
Oh, and the best part about all of it is on top of that, if you really want to get to that campus, even though you, quote, can't talk to the coaches, you can still get there if you want. See the Sooner Summit.
Absolutely. You're not stopping anything. Like, you're just like, well, we don't have blame for it. Well, that's not the reason you do something.
Isn't that the name of the game for the NCAA as far as making a rule and making it to where it is basically breakable, but then if you do break it, they try to come down on you. It's like, I feel like there's never like any type of true guidance from them. They make a rule and then it's like, yeah, it. They can do whatever they want.
Well, Eddie, I mean, the reason Tennessee, as I said last week, was losing all those recruits to Georgia and Alabama is just because, just they were giving, their bags weren't as nice, I guess. It's amazing, like, how many guys a year does Tennessee lose to other programs? Do you think that that's happening because they were paying more? Like, I'm kind of like, we really don't think we should take a look at some other programs, see maybe what's happening at Florida State. But, anyway, we're just, we're kind of talking here. Ryan Bartow, good dude. Yeah. No, it is absolutely not what I've told you.
You're Kevin Nealon right now.
That's right in my important growth years of comedy. So there's some Kevin Nealon definitely in my core.
I never was a fan.
Well,
Kevin Nealon?
Yeah.
The subliminal message man?
Yeah, him or Dennis Miller. I mean, I'm more of a fan of Dennis Miller than Kevin Nealon.
Oh, no. Miller is political. Like, he's super political. I can't do him.
No, I just love the really obscure references he would drop all the time.
Oh, my God. Like, and it was okay on the show. That year of Monday Night Football was atrocious.
Oh, no,
like,
I'm not talking. No, I don't. I was not a fan of that Dennis Miller.
I know.
That was, well, I don't know. I might take Dennis Miller over Booger McFarland.
I'd take him over Jason Witten. Hey, speaking of, how's Jason Witten's tenure in Norman going? Is it pretty good?
They're just settling into a house in Brookhaven.
Coaching at, is he Norman North or Norman High? Which one did he go to?
You know what's funny, Josh? It's funny that you bring that up because he actually bought Calvin Thibodeau's house when Thibodeau got fired last year.
Oh, that 2-year plan. That's. I don't think it's gone together. To plan. Yeah, I don't think that 2-year plan's gone quite to plan. Arguably the best defensive line in the country, but what's he doing? How crazy is that, guys? I mean, like, we'll get into like that stuff more in the summer, but I mean, Oklahoma has a legitimate case as the best defensive line in college football.
It's, I guess,
that's
not as surprising as it is. Well, I guess it is a little surprising. I mean, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this: who's more talented, OU's defensive line or Casey Thompson and B. John Robinson?
Oh God. God, and I hate it so much because I know both those kids pretty well, and I don't want to shit on either one. Like, Bijan's a monster. I love that dude. Casey, I'm rooting for him. Like, I like him as a human being, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
But I'm like, because it's shit like that. Where like we told you guys, we told all of you, and you gave him clout, and now, oh God,
and we
tried to stop him. We tried to stop him. Well, if we don't mention it by name, it didn't count.
Stop anybody. It just wasn't a good fit.
Oh, I tried to stop him.
You tried to stop him. Eddie's tried to stop him.
No, like, that's the funniest thing is, like, he thinks there's that's too far behind the curtain. But like, I didn't have a problem with the way he operated for us. Like you said, it just wasn't a good fit. And then he reinvented himself as Superfan and like couldn't be further from reality.
It's a play.
Someday we'll have a podcast just all about that. Maybe this summer.
He's made
Maybe
us
this summer I'll drink a handle of something and we'll
the next drunken podcast.
Do we have? We should have like a file of that story from the boosters the dinner thing. That should be a file we've saved somewhere.
You mean the Bourne thing?
No,
the alumni dinner or the coaches thing. And the story had nothing to do with what was actually said there. It was about how nice the meals were and like shaming the people for having a nice dinner.
The caravan, Carrie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
I sorry, I couldn't think of the right word for it, but yeah.
You know what's kind of crazy is I feel like since the bowl game, the Hudson Card thing has definitely gotten stronger. I mean, I feel like you talk to Texas people and they think Hudson Card is going to be the starter down there.
There were people that were like, and one of them's a kid I covered in high school that played with Casey. He was like, I told you Casey's going to be the best. He's better than Radler, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, he ain't going to start this year. Like, and it's got nothing to do with Casey being good or bad or whatever. There is so much pressure for that kid to take the job.
Did Casey, I mean, I know he transferred to Newcastle or whatever, but did he have injury problems his senior year? Did I remember him getting hurt and missing a bunch of games?
I don't remember that, Bob.
Okay, I don't.
I could be wrong. I mean, like, Casey was a little off my radar at that point.
Right.
Maybe he missed some games just for transferring or something. I mean, it just seemed like there was something. Anyway, my point was, my biggest concern for Casey is just staying healthy because he's just not a big dude.
Yep. And it just, people are taking a lot out of that Colorado game, and I'm like, man, don't get me wrong, he looked great. He really, really did, but that's not exactly the litmus test you're looking for.
And the thing about this, like, Spencer Rattler got hurt last year, and it was against Kansas, of all teams. Like,
yeah,
it's not like you're going to get hurt against Oklahoma every game, but you can get hurt playing the worst team in the conference just because other teams have physical players that can punish you, even if they suck as a team.
It looks like Casey played all 10 his senior year, just looking at his stats. Okay. But
I think I'm probably just confused because there's just so much controversy with Southmore and Newcastle.
Sure. Hey, and the guy who left Southmore and took over at Newcastle, Jeff Brickman, and then that Casey went with, they've done a hell of a job. Newcastle had 2 guys in my Sooner State rankings this year. That I can say that isn't. They've never had one. So it's Brick's always been a guy we've worked with a lot. He's a good dude. Yeah, he's really done a nice job down there.
Okay, outside of that, we've seen new offers going out. Anything that's really stood out to you with that, or and we can even talk about your Sooner State list and anything that really stood out, or any film that you saw that you were like, okay, wow, this kid's a lot better than I thought.
Going over some of the new offers, the Trey Wisner kid out of the Austin area, he's an absolute monster. A running back, 2023 guy. That's been the thing that I've noticed is they clearly have gotten started on 2023 pretty hard. Yeah. Which tells me that I wouldn't say they know what 2022 is going to look like, but they're starting to get a feel for, okay, this is what our numbers are going to look like here. We kind of think this guy could fill those spots and kind of go in that direction. One of the ones, and it just happened yesterday, and it just kind of going through the timeline trying to make sure I haven't, I kind of mentioned anybody that sticks out. The Ish Harris kid from Pilot Point that is a like 6'4", 220, plays running back, DB, linebacker is where he was offered by Brian Odom. So clearly Oklahoma sees him as a linebacker, and it's really interesting because his body type's kind of similar to Jordan Mukes. But it just tells you, I mean, like that speed and length is not stopping anytime soon. That is what they are thinking about, and that's where their brain is. The one that I'm watching close really right now for me, and, Bob might have a different take on this, is Chris McClellan. Guy was number 4 in my first release of Sooner State rankings. Has been at Tulsa Edison, is transferring to Owasso for his senior year. Really active. His junior tape looks great. I'm really interested to see what he does when he gets in with Owasso strength program, which is probably the best in the state, in my opinion, under a guy named Jordan Johnson that does an outstanding job for them. And I want to see how he develops, when he really gets pushed day in and day out. And just like I said, I think he's a guy that I know Oklahoma has interest in. And I think if just a few chips fell right, he could definitely be the next in-state offer.
Yeah, I liked watching McClellan a couple camps last summer, and then watching Edison versus Shawnee. Probably not the best showcase of what he can really do, but you can see that a lot of potential there. And when you heard about that move or transfer to Owasso a couple weeks ago, that's a nice fit. And, as much as he's already done just fine, he got the Oregon offer earlier this week. He's not hurting for any Power 5 offers, but going to a school like Owasso should just, amplify everything that's going on with him and put him in the right environment to succeed as much as possible.
Absolutely. Other guy I did. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is he a guy that you would consider absolutely on Oklahoma's radar?
Absolutely. That I know that Oklahoma likes him, that they are interested. I think it's a matter of, they've just got some other guys that maybe they're just a little higher on. Maybe they've got a little bit more familiarity with, a little more relationship with. Guys like Amario Bohr, Derek Moore is a guy that Scoop's going to have some stuff on Friday. It sounds like Oklahoma's really, really, really in there pretty tight. So that's going to be an interesting race. Could be, Jamar Cain's next big, huge steal. Big, 4-star arrival from 100 guy out of another guy out of that D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. So, but one offer that I did want to say was kind of interesting for not so much for his offer, but what it kind of indicates. Mekhi Lemon, a wide receiver out of California that Oklahoma offered. High school teammates with Malachi Nelson, classmates with Malachi Nelson, the quarterback offer from Los Alamitos there in California. You've got to think that's a sign of Oklahoma really trying. Those guys, I've been told, want to play together. So it sounds like Oklahoma is really, like I said a couple weeks ago, full steam ahead on Malachi Nelson in 2023, trying to make him their guy. And then, like we first reported a couple weeks ago as well, 2022 right now, I'm not sure there's going to be a quarterback in that class. We're going to have to watch it, and I think it could be a situation where Oklahoma goes after a good opportunity. If something were to kind of fall into their lap, kind of like Chandler Morris in the 2020 class, maybe something like that could work out late. But right now, I don't think that's the plan to have a quarterback in 2022.
It's interesting because they could be going through the same 2 scholarship thing if Spencer Rattler has the year we all think he does and leaves, and it's just Caleb and Mike and Micah Bowens. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think you got to think with Riley, and especially like you said, you mentioned Micah Bowens and the way they handled that. Riley's got to feel like, I can always find a guy in here to be an arm. Like I can have a guy come in, transfer in, be around, and then say, a year from now, well, I'm transferring out of Oklahoma. I'm going to get some clout out of that, and then I can, go and try to start wherever I want to go. You've got to think he's just so long as he has his guy, the guy because that's the only risk about this, or not the only risk, but it's the biggest one to me. Man, you better get the guys you're after because you start leaning on. Okay, this guy, well, he was our third option. So far, you've gotten Rattler, you've gotten Caleb Williams. You're doing exactly what you need to do, but you have that year where you have a hiccup, and then it gets complicated. But at the same time, you can easily argue, okay, say you miss that guy. Well, in the next class, when it would, where it's been 2019, 2021, and 2023, well, you miss your guy in, 2023. Well, okay, now 2024 becomes important, but the problem with that is then you might be starting a true freshman if that's what it comes down to. So it's super aggressive, and I like it to an extent, but it's playing with fire. There's no doubt about it.
I really don't think Spencer Rattler will leave after this year. I think,
Really?
Well, it's impossible.
Really?
Yeah, it's impossible. He's a high school quarterback, and Lincoln Riley can't develop high school quarterbacks.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah.
Well, and it's also going to be weird. It's also going to be weird too that if he were to announce at the end of this year, doing it as somebody that was a backup to a true freshman.
Yes, that as well.
People forget about
that. Agenda is still being pushed. That is like don't go that bad and double down. Like just kind of walk away from it.
Have we verbally subtweeted more people in one podcast than we have today?
Probably so. Let's keep going.
That cabin fever,
but I mean,
we're all stuck inside.
I still have.
To be fair, I've gone directly at a few.
I think we just missed an Eddie Jim there.
Oh, damn it!
Say that again, Eddie.
We're only halfway through my list. I got more people to go.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned a couple by name. I mean, they were, as Bob said, kind of muttered under my breath, but I think anybody listening knows who I'm talking about.
The shit-talkingest podcast in Oklahoma today.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, Eddie, you have that long list, and you can't even include any weathermen on that. I mean, that's got to be the biggest disappointment of the last couple of weeks. I mean, I really thought we were going to have to maybe make some welfare checks on you because they kind of didn't f*** up this time.
Yeah, it's the story of my life. We got saved by about a half of an inch. If we didn't get 4 inches on, what was that, Wednesday, I probably would have had an insurrection at KFOR.
By the way, that was nice seeing the boom pole for the first time ever.
Yeah, I made a little bit of an appearance. It's
I
still
didn't
in
even
the
know
car.
you had that
It's
thing.
in the
I was
house
like,
now.
when did you take that?
No.
I think I gave it to you before you were going to go see somebody or something. I think because we were like, well, socially distance, yourself if you do an interview.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what it was. I think it was one of the times that we went to go see maybe.
Might have been Choctaw.
It might have been Latrell McCutcheon. I might have grabbed it when we were going down there when I was meeting Josh down in Austin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, by the way, NFL draft stuff, unless you guys had some recruiting you want to hit on real quick here to finish it off.
Just as far as like the 2022 Sooner State rankings, Josh, I mean, I think it was a kind of a given who the top 3 were going to be. McClellan probably kind of on the outside looking like he can make a jump. Are there any other guys that you feel like are kind of under the radar of a lot of people? I think everybody kind of knows about Gentry, Shetron, and Jacob Sexton.
The guy that I'm really intrigued by it, Eddie, you saw him with me, Deshaun Brown from Choctaw. We saw him in that Booker T game, and it was one of those things where I knew he was pretty good coming in, but man, I mean, Eddie, for my money, he was the best player on that field that night, and I don't think it was that close. I mean, he was dominant. And
he's a very good football player that is probably, I guess he got his 4 stars, so we can't say criminally underrated. He's gonna. The thing with him too is I think the most exciting is to see what kind of jump he makes physically from junior to senior year.
I agree because and I've had some people tell me around Choctaw that he's grown a little bit more. If he's one of those guys that can push into 6'3", 6'4", then we could be having the same conversation we are about Chris McClellan, where, man, is he just too good to not be part of what you're doing in Norman? I mean, you don't find pass rushers in your home state that often, and to let him get away would be pretty painful. But at the same time, like I've said before, if you got guys that you think are better, then that's where you go. You can't do it by state. It just doesn't work like that. A couple other guys I really like, Robert Spears Jennings, who I've got at 11 out of Broken Arrow, big receiver. I knew he had a good size when I saw him in the summer when I made my tour, but his tape, he is very explosive. I think averaged 20 yards a catch this season, so had a really big year. And the guy that probably is most interesting to me, not just because of his name, but there is some names like Lasharo Wildcat from Pawhuska.
What?
Yes. 6'5", 210, got a wrestling background, and you watch his tape, all that dude does is make plays in the backfield. It's one of those things where, like, I really did. I checked with his head coach. I checked with teammates. And I was kind of asking about his height because I was interested, but I was also like, is this a Gotch Yarbrough situation where somebody's fucking with me on this name? Like, I'm looking at the tape and I see it and it looks real, but I'm like, this could be anybody. Like, I did not trust it, but his tape is really good. I'm really anxious to see him. And Paul Huska, I mentioned Newcastle having 2 guys. Paul Huska has 2 guys in the top 19 with he and Mason Gilkey, the receiver that committed to Oklahoma State. So there are, I said it kind of in the lead into this story. Guys, I think this class with both elite guys at the top with Gentry, Talon, Sexton, kind of McClellan and some other guys knocking on that door, and then the depth, it's one of the best years I've ever covered in Oklahoma. It's a really, really good class. I kept finding guys. Jaleel Johnson at Putnam North, Eddie, is a guy I like a lot. And, I know talking to the staff there, they think he is completely just raw and still just figuring everything out. But, I mean, guys, there are guys in the 30s that have Power 5 offers. Like, that's unheard of. That does not happen. So it is it's a good class with a lot of size, a lot of length.
I mean, look at Cade McConnell as an example. You have him at 12, and he's committed to TCU. When was the last time that the 12th best player in the state was committed to a school like TCU?
It's rare. I mean, and like I said, and it's one of those things where I'm thinking like
Andre Dollar, yeah,
Andre Dollar's committed to Oregon. I've got him at number 13. I mean, like that is, it's crazy. It's just a very, very good year, and I think, like I said, the top 3 or 4 are very good. Hold up against about any class short of that 2006 group with McCoy and Gresham and Sam and, Dominique Franks and all those guys. That was just such a great, great class. And maybe, hindsight helps. I mean, Sam won a Heisman. Gerald McCoy is an All-American. Jermaine Gresham's first-round pick. I mean, it makes that class even better in hindsight than it was in real time. Maybe this class can do something similar, but I think what really makes it special is like 5 to 25. There's a lot of Power 5 guys in that group that are really, really good players.
I don't know. You talk about all these players and teams coming in. I think the whole pandemic thing and the dead period, to me, it's going to be really interesting with Oklahoma kids when you have, not that they had a season that it was all that impressive. It just didn't suck in Arkansas. But I know that, Sam Pittman wants to be more aggressive recruiting in Oklahoma. Like, I'm really curious. And, you have Texas A&M coming in lately. And I don't think that Sarkisian, if he sees a guy he thinks can help him, I don't think he's going to stay out of the state. But it's going to be really interesting when things open back up and visits take place to see, to me, if Arkansas can do what they want to do in Oklahoma and grab a kid or two here or there. Not necessarily from the Sooners, but maybe get in a battle with Oklahoma State for some guys.
Oh, I can tell you right now, guys, they are full court pressure on Gentry Williams. They want him bad, and I know people are like, oh, that would never happen. And I think OU's a heavy leader there, but again, his good friend, teammate, Kewan Parker, just signed with Arkansas, is going to be, I think is already on campus. So there is, it's not completely crazy. And again, there is plenty of presence for Arkansas in the Tulsa area. So that won't go away. But, talking to Gentry and all of this weather chaos has slowed me down on writing the story, but he and I did a long interview last week, really caught up for a while, and I would say probably OU, Arkansas, maybe like Florida and USC are some that are, and LSU. I would say if you made me pick a 5 for him, I think that would be the 5 you're looking at. But, he admitted, there's several that are kind of there all the time, and there's a few that kind of move in and out. But I got the impression talking to him, USC is more of a factor than some people think they are.
USC could go 0-12 for like 5 years, and I think kids would. And I completely get why. I'm not acting like I don't understand it, but they just continually bring kids in and just underperforming or mediocre, aren't they? I just don't get it. I don't understand how schools like that get to where they are.
Well, and especially when you look at Oklahoma, who has so much like just consistent good success, and it feels like they have to fight and scratch for everything. I mean, USC guys had the number 18 class in the country last year. Coming into the year, it kind of felt like Clay Helton was about to be fired. And, they get the Rajon Davis kid. I mean, but, God, Eddie, like, if you can lock down John Bosco in modern day, you're going to have 8 of the top 250 players in the country right there. Boom, done.
Josh, remember the year they had all the recruiting sanctions and their class was tiny, and like every kid they signed was a 5-star. And it's like, You're getting nothing but 5 stars in like an 11-person class or something. Like, how does it not register with these guys? Like, maybe I shouldn't be going here because there's not a lot of players that are going to be on this roster, and there's a chance that we might not be very good if I go there. But they got all those 5 stars anyway. They still, I don't remember what year that was. It was probably like
10, 09,
I was thinking
10,
late in the
somewhere in that
O's,
ballpark.
yeah.
USC is always going to be USC, though. I mean, once you get into that fraternity, you're in kind of, I don't know. I guess that's why it's, I don't know. Is it still a blue blood? Is it on the outside in looking like a blue blood? I have no idea what that conversation is. But, I mean, USC, playing football at USC would be badass. I think I might
2009 and 2010, they signed 18 players in 2009 and had the number 4 class in the country. Signed 18 players in 2010 and had the number 1 class in the country. Now, those classes didn't turn out great. Robert Woods was a really good player, still playing the NFL, but not a lot there that you look at. Like maybe there was a reason those guys made poor decisions. Maybe they were, it just wasn't the right fit. Devon Kennard, had a nice little career, but I mean, there's not many here in these 2 classes. Matt Barkley got one of them. I once got in trouble for dissing Matt Barkley in a rival story that I helped rivals write, and they didn't see it in the edit, and I kind of dissed him, and I got in trouble. So my Matt Barkley story. Basically called him a wiener for not competing in the Army All-American combine. And he showed up. He got player of the year, junior of the year, and got picked for the Army game. But he wouldn't compete in the camp, and I kind of dissed him for it. And I remember Kerry Krabby was not pleased with me on that one. So that's a fun little story. Yeah, I guess not that fun, but I thought it was fun.
No, I'm thinking never have to worry about that with me because we like shitting on everyone.
Yeah, we shit on everybody. Oh, guys, obviously Carson Wentz news has been big to me, but have we noticed, speaking of shitting on people, has there been a heavy Jalen Hurts aggregation by anybody lately?
Oh, I haven't seen it.
There has been.
QB1 now.
Has been.
Yeah, you got to think the aggregators are going to be out in full force with that one. Now it'll probably be, did the Eagles just trade away their only legitimate quarterback?
Yes, and he's a Colt. Suck it.
Maybe we have more Philadelphia media for Lincoln Riley Zoom calls.
Oh, my God. NBC Philadelphia, I think, was on the last call. It was after he won his first game or something. I don't think they ever asked a question or were allowed to ask a question. Thank God. I think that was signing
Which
day,
made
maybe?
it. No, it was Hurts versus Murray.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like those people got on the call and sorry, we had real business to talk about.
Josh, are you like one of those fans when you fire your coach, you're like, we're going to get Nick Saban. Did you think you were going to get Deshaun Watson?
No. I think, guys, and maybe you feel the same way. For me, being around fans all the time and seeing some of the crazy thought lines they get down, and I'm not saying all fans, but I grew up with one. My dad is, Carrie knows it. My dad lives and breathes OU football, and seeing how far afield you can get with that stuff sometimes, I've always been kind of leery to not be that fan. I'm not that guy. And so I'm usually pretty realistic.
You're better than them.
Yeah, no, I'm just no. And honestly, when And that's the hard part, because when something great happens, I probably don't get to enjoy it as much as they do, because I'm just kind of like, yes, well, that was the way it was supposed to happen. Our defense matched up better with that scheme. They were like, I think of things on that level all the time. Like I rarely get to enjoy something as a fan, because I'm thinking of it to a. Yeah, like, I hate that, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think of it like.
I just love how you're digging a hole. I just love how you're digging this hole for yourself.
No,
like,
it's not better. It's just different.
You don't realize it, but you sound very condescending right now.
Do you know the one team that I absolutely like? I put on my red, white, and blue bandana and drink Bud Lights while I watch them play. U.S. Soccer. I will be a shameless shill for U.S. Soccer. I've seen it. It's bad. It's not good. It's not good at all.
A&M fan with as much as success as they've had lately. You should be an A&M/U.S. Soccer fan.
Sir, don't you diss Christian Pulisic. I will not stand for it, Eddie.
No, they are supposed to be pretty good here over the next couple of years, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. They're stealing kids from all over the world, so you know that.
Well, there's like actual American kids in Europe right now playing that are young that are going to play for us. I'm in. I'm going to go to the World Cup in 2026.
Where is it?
If I make it 5 years, it's here in America.
Oh, okay.
Probably going to have a game at Taft.
All right.
Or at the new stadium, the Map 7 or whatever.
Real quick, NFL draft. Some interesting buzz on Ronnie Perkins. Guys, I almost get the feeling like it's actually helping Ronnie Perkins that he didn't play a lot of games this year, because his production was so high. It's almost like people are not questioning the fact that he was suspended. They're more focused on the fact of, man, that kid really. Think if that kid had played a full season, how many stats he would have put up.
Yeah, it was.
I think there's something to that.
Daniel Jeremiah, I think, Josh, you're the one that pointed it out. Daniel Jeremiah had him all the kind of sneaking into the first round.
Yeah, I think he's got. Hang on, I'm pulling it up right now so I make sure I'm not screw it up.
Was it the Jets?
23 to the Jets. Yeah. Says Perkins is a very productive edge rusher who plays with physicality and tremendous effort. I think that's a pretty legit. I mean, like, if you were going to break down in a sentence or two what he was at the end of last year, that's pretty much what I would say. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, he's good. His effort was insane.
He was a man possessed.
I've rarely seen a guy run like. Yeah, I mean, I said something at the time, like, he missed football, man. Like, and that, I mean, he looked like a guy that did. He just wanted to play ball again. And guys, we said it on this pod, like, I thought he was wrong to leave. If he gets a first, good for you, Ron. Like, you proved everybody wrong. Like, that's fine. As a first rounder, you're insane not to go. You're crazy. Go take the money. But I thought he was going to be late second, early third. But man, and Jeremiah, this isn't like some fluky guy, from the CBS Sports Plus third team or something like. This is Daniel Jeremiah. This guy knows people. He has good sources. If he's not a first rounder, he's going to be close to it. It would be my guess.
Here's my other question leading up to the draft is, every time I see a picture of Ramondre Stevenson, I have to ask myself, like, okay, what was the deal? Did the coaches set a weight that they wanted him to play at, and he played it? Because, like, he's so skinny now. Like, I don't know if he's doing that to just try and look better for the draft, but, like, he's not, like, anywhere close to, like, 240, which I think he was when he was playing in college. Like, he's more like that, 230 range now, or maybe what was he at the Senior Bowl, like 228 or something like that?
I can't remember.
And look, here's the thing. I think if that was the case with OU coaches, that was the right thing to do, because what made him special, I thought, was that he was big. I mean, and that he moved like he did at that size.
You're just not going to bring him down on the first. Yeah. The first guy ain't bringing him down.
I just don't think he's as good a running back at like 225.
He 227 is what he apparently came in at Senior Bowl.
That's
is
crazy.
What I'm reading, so
is
apparently that's almost 20 pounds lighter than what I was thinking. I always thought he was 240, 245 while he was at OU.
I guarantee he was. There's no way he was 230 at OU.
No, especially not last year.
So you think he just didn't like carrying it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's the question I want to know. Was he carrying that on purpose? Did he want to be lighter? And now he's just lighter?
It might be just as simple as he's had time to work out as opposed to, and I guess he did, he had the month before the season started when they came back from COVID, but I mean, he was only 232 at OU? Well, that's only 5 pounds lighter.
I guess he just
He might
looks
be one
a
of those
lot
guys that
leaner.
just looks bigger in pads.
Yeah, but I even during the game, I thought he looked a lot leaner, like quite a bit.
Oh, like during the actual Senior Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I know you didn't watch it, and it wasn't worth watching because running backs, nobody did anything. It was a stalemate the entire day, offensive and defensive lines. No, I find it curious because I think him being 240 is, or 235 is, I think he's a better running back that way. So, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of curious. So, all right. I think we've hit on just about every. By the way, real quick question: who has the better coach, University of Tennessee or UCF?
UCF.
Right.
I don't even know how that's a question.
That's a perfect situation for Gus, isn't it?
The pressure cooker.
If he can handle the pressure in Orlando.
Oh God, what? I think he's
that joke that I want to say right now, but I won't.
The whole thing about, I think it's a bad argument about how Arkansas screwed up. I don't think he was ever a good fit at Arkansas. Not that he couldn't win there, but I mean he certainly was a better fit than Chad Morris. By the way, did we talk about that last week about how TCU is hiring back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We did.
But no, I mean, if he'd gone to Arkansas, people always would have treated him like the high school coach. I think it would have been natural. Like, he needed to leave Arkansas to be a college coach, I think. Because he was so well known for being a great high school coach. I just don't think that was an ideal situation for him.
Honestly, I think Arkansas is a place where you've got to take some chances and, be kind of aggressive. And I think Gus doesn't have to be that guy. I think Gus is a pretty good coach. Like Auburn, it's hard for them to see it, but he was living in the shadow of the sun. I mean, it didn't matter how good he was never going to be where Alabama is right now. And who would be? In that situation, have to live in the same state. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So, you put Urban Meyer at Auburn, and he wouldn't win like Nick was at Alabama. It just wasn't going to happen.
Well, and I hope that Josh Heupel is successful at Tennessee. I really do. I don't have anything against Josh. He was always good to me.
Same.
It's a complicated situation with, him in Oklahoma and Bob Stoops. But I want to see him do well at Tennessee. I don't know if he will. But I think he'll have a good offense.
I think one of you guys said it best. I can't remember who it was on U40 a couple weeks ago. It's such a polar opposite of what you would think Tennessee wants in a head coach, needs in a head coach, from on-field performance and then off-field recruiting-wise, that maybe it will work. Maybe this is such a crazy hire that it will end up working for them. Because whatever they've done over the last, I guess 2 decades now, certainly hasn't helped any.
I wonder how
don't
much
see Josh doing the recruiting side of it. It's just I don't know. Him and I love Joey Halzle too, but Halsey, yeah, I don't see either of those guys just being dynamic recruiters though by any means. Pales in comparison to what Riley's offering in the recruiting realm.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there's that group that was always kind of together in coaching circles, which was Josh, Joey, Joe John, and Cooper a little bit, John Cooper. None of those guys like big personalities, like super, like certainly not Switzer. I mean, like they're not electric personalities. They're pretty reserved, almost introverted guys.
No doubt. But guys that definitely know football. I mean, they're good coaches.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tennessee has not won its own division since 2007. They haven't won a conference title since 1998.
Yeah, that was Peyton's last year, right?
And let's see.
96 would have been Peyton.
97 was Peyton's last year because that was the year Woodson won the Heisman.
So T. Martin was the quarterback when they won.
Yep. Yeah, because that 98 was the year they won the national title. They have a claimed national title from 1967 that they went 9-2 and lost to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. Now I know that was before they waited until after the season to pick a national champion, but still, like you're going to put a 2-loss team up there as a national title? Like I think no, we're going to just stop that before we even begin. By something called Litkin House.
Oh yeah, they had all kinds of national championships back in the day. There was
That's insane.
Dixieland News Press or Joe Bob's Football Guide to America.
Well, they also have.
Sounds like it was something that was ran by the Grand Knight himself.
They have a 1938, and the selectors listed include Billingsley, Sagarin, Elo Chess. And I'm like, wait, you're going back and adding them after the fact? Like what? Oh, my God.
The BCS computers individually, it sounds like.
Yes. I don't know why OU continues to live high and like, man, just go take your 74 national titles you could claim and stop the Alabama has 30 and nobody else has 10. Like, stop.
Yeah,
they claim
Alabama
ones
doesn't
that nobody
even
else
need
claims.
to lie anymore. They have more legitimate ones than anybody else.
Yeah. That year you lost on the field to Georgia, you were not national title champions over Georgia. That's not the way that works, Alabama.
But Joe Bob's Football Emporium said they were.
Yeah, based out of Birmingham, Alabama.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. I hope everybody stays safe. And seriously, really, our thoughts are with you guys down in Texas especially. I know it has not been easy for folks in Dallas, and especially in Houston and Austin. I'm sure there are Sooners in Austin. Don't give me that, people. I know you're out there. Screw Austin. I know there are OU people in Austin. They're on our boards. Austin Sooner, all those guys. Sooner in Austin. So, yeah, I hope for the best for you guys, and hopefully it won't be too bad as things thaw. And if you've had property damage and things like that, hopefully, you're able to kind of get that taken care of without too much hassle. So we're thinking about all you guys down there, and especially guys here in Oklahoma. I know it's been a rough week dealing with all this weather. So everybody just try and support each other. Stop fighting with me on Twitter and each other, and we'll all get through this thing. Go shovel your driveway. It makes Bob and I feel better. It can work for you too.
Pay me to do it. I'll do it.
God, you're out there hustling you got a side hustle going now?
I should. I love it so much. It makes me feel like a kid again.
All right, man, you were in a labor camp when you were a kid, I guess. All right, thanks, you guys. Hope you guys stay safe, and we'll be back again at this next week. And remember, stay tuned. More really big stuff coming from us in Dead Soxy soon, so keep an eye out for that as well. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you again this time next week right here on the Unofficial 40 Podcast from Soonerscoop.com.